Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing a Toyota 4Runner TRD Off-Road Premium, and I'm going to explain in today's video why I should have purchased one of these instead of the TRD Pro that I purchased. Before we get into the video though, first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Toyota here in Murray, Utah for giving me some time with this 4Runner. I'm going to include a link to their website in the description down below, and if you happen to have any questions on any of their inventory or just Toyota models in general, just ask for Brian. And with that being said, let's get into the video. Under the hood, we have a naturally aspirated 4-liter V6 that goes through a 5-speed automatic transmission. It is good for 270 horsepower and then 278 pound-feet of torque, with fuel economy being 16 around town and then 19 on the highway, aka the same exact powertrain as what you get in the TRD Pro. Now, this particular TRD Off-Road Premium is actually finished in Lunar Rock, which is my favorite color on the 4Runner. I always go between this and then the brand new crazy color they always release on the TRD Pros, but I think that this color just, I don't know, has something special about it. But anyways, guess what? This has a cool hood vent, just like the TRD Pro there in the center. And then you have the same headlight design, which looks fantastic with the fog lights off to the, well, bottom portion. Now we do have a chrome Toyota logo, which obviously that would be pretty easy to black out, frankly. We have the high approach angle front bumper, so that's unchanged. And we actually do have some skid plate action underneath. Now this doesn't have the crazy aggressive looking front bash plate that the TRD Pro has, but we still have protection underneath with the TRD Off-Road. And, well, there's the front. Now, coming around the side here, our tire and wheel setup is 265/70/17 in the front and over in the rear as well. And you guys can see from a wheel design perspective, they look pretty good with the silver there on the top, and it's kind of like darker below that, so it almost makes the wheel look like it is floating. Now, these tires are obviously not the most aggressive in terms of off-road application. We do have independent front suspension, and this doesn't have any crazy branded shocks like the TRD Pro has. And then you guys can see the splash guards front and rear. But something I do want to mention is the fact that, and this 4Runner is actually going to have this happen to it, is you can just buy the TRD Pro wheels after the fact from a Toyota dealership and have them install it. And same thing with the tires the TRD Pro has, which, like I said, that's going to happen to this 4Runner. It's going to have the TRD Pro wheels and tires thrown onto it, and also it's going to have a roof rack thrown onto it. So it's basically going to look exactly like a TRD Pro, except one small detail. The TRD Off-Road badge is still going to be here. It's not going to say TRD Pro. Now here is our key fob for this 4Runner, pretty simplistic with our unlock and our lock function. Now something that's pretty cool is you can actually roll down the window here with this button, and you can roll it up if you want to from the outside, which is definitely practical. Now this is a hydraulic hatch. Notice storage space is absolutely massive. Of course, we got our Toyota first aid kit, which is super important. We got our full power outlet there in the back as well. But again, a point that I'm gonna make here with the rear is same exact storage space area as we have with the Pro. Still have the grab handles and the little strap right there. And then finishing things up with the rest of the rear, because my particular TRD Pro doesn't have like the blackout package on it, I have the same exact like chrome badging that this has on the rear. And then also they don't really change anything with the taillight design. Still got the receiver hitch. And this actually has a superior exhaust, in my personal opinion. I love the sound of the TRD Pro exhaust, but you guys can see where this tip is. It doesn't get in the, well, it kind of gets in the way in terms of departure, but it's at the same exact height as the tire, whereas the TRD Pro exhaust kind of pops out close to the splash guard. And so it's pretty easy to hit, which did happen, not in mine, but on the demo model that Toyota gave me for a week. But anyways, that's the rear. Now popping inside, we literally have the same exact interior as the Pro. You can see we've got the cool red stitching here with all of the padding. And then same thing with the seats, which I'm actually a huge fan of these seats because they're really easy to clean off. Got the vents here in the center with some USB ports, and storage space, again, and all that kind of stuff is identical to the Pro. And we'll quickly pop in so you guys can kind of see. It's pretty good back here. I saw a video of Doug DeMiro saying that it's like cramped here in the back, but like I'm almost 6 feet tall and I'm like 190 pounds and I fit back here like perfectly fine. And there's your cup holder armrest set up. Let's head to the front. Now here's our front door panel again. Same thing with all of the padding. All of our windows are automatic. We got blind spot monitoring here for the mirror. And then guess what? We have the TRD headrest, which, by the way, make sure to always lock your 4Runner because I've seen quite a few of these headrests get stolen out of vehicles so people can put it in their vehicles, which is sad. Anyways, notice with all of the padding here, and then you can see the stitching on the side, and then we do have our power adjustments, pedal layout down below, and then 4Runner TRD Off-Road floor mat, and that's turning the outlet, the mirror adjustments, and let's pop in. Now here is our steering wheel. You can see the padding here at the top and at the bottom has that like cowhide texture, and that's perforated here on the sides and get a slightly better grip. Now this does have stuff like your cruise control, lane departure assistance, controls for the center stack, voice command, volume controls, phone controls as well, turn signal, light stock, windshield wiper stock, and yeah, there's steering wheel. Now all the 4Runners get the same gauge cluster, so it's basically analog for the most part, and then you do have this screen here in the center which you can scroll through different bits of info here on the vehicle. You can see like steering angle, for example. I'm gonna keep that in the video because that was so stupid. But yeah, there's the center. Here's our infotainment screen. So first off, if we pop it into reverse, we do have a backup camera with trajectory lines. They don't turn with the steering wheel. Resolution's okay. Now, I guess one downside about this over the Pro is this one doesn't have the cool like front camera view. But I mean, frankly, it's nice to have, but it's not like 100% necessary. And then we do have our little shortcut buttons here on the side for different functions. Notice it responds pretty dang well, and touchscreen response time is actually solid on top of that. And then down below we got our chunky controls here for the climate system, and then you guys can see with the USBs, got our one cup holder here. Now in this area we have two different shifters. This one is for the 4-wheel drive system, so you got your 2-wheel high, 4-wheel high, your neutral, and then your 4-wheel low. It's really easy to use, so like you literally can just pull it down and it'll blink for a little bit. You want to drive forward typically is what I found, and then it'll pop into 4-wheel drive. But it's just really easy to engage. And then we have TRD here on the shifter. We do have manual shift function if you want to use that. Same carbon fiber print that you have in the TRD Pro. Heated seats, just like the TRD Pro. Even have, we already showed you guys earlier, power sliding window, just like the Pro. And then center console set up here. Notice with the stitching there on the top. And then you can see with the glove box. And then notice the trim right there, and then on the dash as well. And guess what? This has the same exact drive modes, so the crawl control and the multi-terrain select. So you guys can see the multi-terrain select for the different off-road driving conditions, and then the crawl control. And then this has a rear locker, and it has Toyota's 8-track system and their stability control as well. And it has a sunroof. This literally has everything. So the camera is struggling to focus on the window sticker here, but anyways, this is a TRD Off-Road Premium, and so most of the stuff is standard. There's a couple things that are optional, like the USB front charger. Apparently you get a credit, a Keep It Wild savings, gives you a $750 credit. That's interesting. Anyways, total MSRP on this is $46,224, which is $8,000 less expensive than what my TRD Pro sticker's for, roughly. And $8,000 can easily buy you the tires and the rack and everything to make it look like a TRD Pro. But well, let's take it out for a drive of sorts and kind of sum things up with today's video. Well, let's talk about visibility before we do our little drive of sorts. So here's your visibility over the hood. Both mirrors do have blind spot monitoring, and throughout the rest of the rear. And well, we're gonna set off. We're basically just taking this back to his parking space. You guys know I already own a 4Runner, so I don't need to take this out on a drive. Looks like this gray is pretty popular because it looks like that Tacoma's also, is that Lunar Rock? I can't tell anymore. Anyways, here's the deal: is I've driven a ton of 4Runners, so I can tell you that they all pretty much drive the same. Even the TRD Pro drives the same. I know it's hard for me to admit because, you know, it's an expensive 4Runner. So yeah, this basically has that same kind of squishy feel that the TRD Pro has. Now, I imagine that off-road, this isn't going to be nearly as compliant, and the way that I can support that is the fact that I have taken my 4Runner TRD Pro off-road. I've also taken a Tacoma Trail Edition off-road and a Tacoma TRD Pro. And I did notice a distinct difference in terms of the damping between the Tacoma TRD Pro and the Tacoma Trail Edition off-road. On-road, though, there's no difference. And so here's the deal, and this is what people have been telling me in the comment section below for the longest time, especially when I mentioned that I thought about, well, I was thinking about buying a TRD Pro, is buy a TRD off-road instead. Unless you're going to be doing like a lot of off-roading like me, like the TRD Pro actually makes sense for me because I go off-roading on like a weekly basis. And yes, I know it's my wife's car, but it's also fun to take off-road. So that's where the benefit of the TRD Pro comes in, is off-road. Again, the more aggressive tires, those Fox shocks really help out with high-speed damping and low-speed damping as well, frankly. And so if you're going to off-road regularly, the TRD Pro actually does have a benefit. But if you're just going to mall crawl with it, just get a TRD Off-Road Premium, buy the TRD wheels and the TRD Pro wheels and tires separate, and then same thing, you can just throw the rack on as well. Super easy. You can make this look just like a TRD Pro. Nobody will know the difference, and you won't spend nearly as much. Like just window sticker to window sticker, there's an $8,000 difference. Yeah, if you have the accessories, you're probably gonna, you know, close that gap slightly, maybe by like what, $2,000-$3,000. I don't know exactly how much all the accessories are, but close that gap by a little bit. But here's the deal: is you can get a good deal on a TRD off-road in today's market. TRD Pros used are still going, like I'm talking about the used ones. The new ones are even going for even more at a lot of places, but used they're going for like $10,000-$15,000 over sticker, and so the new ones I'm sure are going for even more at most places. And so you're comparing like a $40-something thousand SUV to a $70,000-something SUV, and they're basically the same thing. So that's my opinion on it, and I guess that's my video of saying that I should have bought a TRD Off-Road Premium if I was smart, but I'm not. That is Something's Up. That's because Something's Up for a video on this 4Runner TRD Off-Road Premium. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Large Miller, Toyota here in Murray, for giving me some time with this 4Runner. Check out the inventory in the description down below. And again, if you have any questions, ask for Brian. We'll see you.